so we can get started. Thank you. Our next item is a mandatory referral, STP 2018-00340, for the addition of lighted soccer fields at Julius West Middle School at 651 Great Falls Road. The applicant is Montgomery County Public Schools. I assume, are you speaking?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually,
I turn it over.
you just made my presentation.
Okay,
so.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, as mentioned, this is a mandatory referral request filed by Montgomery County Public Schools for the Julius West School site at 651 Great Falls Road. As part of a settlement agreement with Montgomery Soccer Incorporated, MCPS will install artificial turf fields at various school locations throughout the county, and one of the identified locations is at Julius West Middle School. The project at Julius West involves 2 new artificial soccer fields on the south side of the school. The fields will be constructed over what is currently existing open recreational fields. They are located adjacent to the intersection of Interstate 270 and Falls Road. There are no improvements proposed or being made to the school building or to other facilities on the school site. Programmed use of the fields during non-school hours will utilize existing parking on the school site, which I did identify in this slide where those surface parking is located. There's approximately 132 spaces in the main lot. To the north of the school, there's a 10-space parking lot to the west, and then there is a 21 bus space area directly out front, which could be reconfigured to accommodate additional automobile parking during programmed use by MSI if desired. And as part of this application, there is as part of the installation of the 2 fields, it also includes the installation of lighting on both fields. Proposed with the smaller field are 4 light poles with a pole height of 60 feet with 8 LED luminaires on each pole, and proposed with the larger field are 6 lights total with a pole height of 70 feet. 4 of those poles on each corner will have 8 LED luminaires on each pole, and then there's 2 lights in the center of the field which will have 11 LED luminaires on each pole. And on this slide I attempted to identify by color the location as well as the pole type for each of the fields. And this is an exhibit that was provided by the applicant. And so based on the study presented with the application, the effective glare from the proposed lights will not extend significantly beyond the boundaries of the school property. So based on neighborhood meetings that MCPS has conducted with Rose Hill Falls as well as with the West End, we have been made aware of concerns that nearby residents of the school have, and some of the issues that we've heard are with regards to traffic and circulation, the adequacy of existing parking at the school. Is it adequate to handle the increased utilization of the proposed fields? Negative impacts from the exterior lighting, increased noise from the site given the increased usage, which would obviously extend into evening and night hours. We have included conditions of approval asking for studies to address these issues prior to the issuance of permits, either building permits or electrical permits for the field installation, and particularly for the light poles. Also, we have recommended a restriction of 10 o'clock p.m. For the use of the exterior lights on both the larger and the smaller fields. Based on the information submitted to us, staff's determination is that the 3 findings required for a mandatory referral, which are location, character, and extent, have been met, and we do recommend approval of the request. We feel that compliance with the recommended conditions as written will provide another level of review to mitigate against any significant impact on surrounding properties. And with that, that is my presentation. We do have representatives from both MCPS and MSI are here and have a presentation for you as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission before we hear the applicant's presentation? Commissioner Tyner.
Mr. A.
Yes.
Considering proposed condition 4 and proposed condition 3, given this is a mandatory referral, which we have very little to say about, what's been the staff's experience with previous county groups that were supposed to be doing studies? One is the Judicial Center, another one was Broome when they did their fields out back, and so on and so forth. I just want to know if, we put this as a condition, but it's just a hope and bagosh they'll do it. Be frank about it, because this audience is going to sit here expecting all these great things, and we need to, call a spade with all due respect to my colleagues here.
Well, I will be frank. It's my understanding in conversation that the representatives from MCPS have no issue with the conditions as they've been presented. Obviously, they do have the ability to take the decision as well as the conditions to the Board of Education and have them struck by a supermajority or 2/3 vote of the board should they choose to do that. I would hope, that they would work with us in good faith since they have indicated that they have no issue with the conditions that they're written.
Yeah, we've experienced board action before. From a staff's perspective, is it really necessary to have 70-foot tall or 60-foot tall lighting? My concern is the excellent description here of where the poles are listed and all that. Given our experience down the Twin Brook area, there's no such thing as keeping the lights focused away from houses. So I'm just wondering if that's part of what is technically they have to do in order to get the illumination, or do you get more poles?
That's my understanding. I'm certainly not an expert in this area. I do know that we looked at a field in the Kentlands Lakelands area, which was adjacent to Lakelands Park Middle School. It's not an MCPS installation. It was actually City of Gaithersburg, I believe, that sits on Main Street right across from detached single-family houses at a much closer location than this proposal. And I believe we indicated in our staff report that those poles were 70 feet. I talked to staff at Gaithersburg, and they actually indicated they were 90 feet at one time. We didn't verify that. But I mean, the pole height, and again, I don't want to speak beyond my area of expertise, but I think these LED lights can be cut off very effectively, so they just illuminate the area that they are intended to illuminate from all of the examples that I've seen.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question. Why is it proposed 60-foot poles in one area and then 70-foot poles in another area?
I think it's just based on the size of the field. The smaller field requires less pole height to achieve illumination.
Other questions? Commissioner Littlefield.
Yeah, kind of along the lines of Commissioner Tyner's comments, questions on the conditions, and I'm not opposed to number 5, that there shouldn't be any lighting after 10 p.m., but all of the other conditions are either enforceable via permit or mitigation. Isn't it, so if number 5 were a condition and the applicant accepted that condition, then basically at 10:05, if the lights are on, a resident could call and complain to the city police, and the city police would go there and issue a fine to the school system. I mean, how do you, what is that condition, what's behind that condition in terms of making sure that actually is the case?
Well, if this were private development, it would be a zoning violation, and something that we could enforce in that way. The police are not going to enforce something like this. MCPS and other public entities are not subject to our zoning ordinance, so we would have to approach that in a different manner than issuing a zoning violation, but we would work with them.
So it's more of a gentleman's agreement there than an enforceable condition.
I think it's somewhere in the middle there. It's not necessarily
I'm not-
enforceable, but
Like I said, I'm not against it. I just don't see how it's going to you know, you just have to talk about it if they're on till 11, or I don't know, but,
I mean, MCPS has been good to work with to date, and certainly they don't want to irritate the surrounding community, so I think they would be amenable to.
okay. All right, thank
abiding
you
by
for
that.
clarifying.
Other comments? Commissioner Hadley?
So what are the actual dimensions, length and width of each of the fields?
Oh, that is actually provided in the site plan that was submitted with the application. Yeah, in the report, I just provided the area. The smaller field is approximately 280 feet by 210. The larger field is 390 by 260.
I noticed in the light study, which is projecting candelas, which I assume is a unit of illumination, that it only goes down to 250.
I'm sorry, one more time?
The exhibit that you had on the screen previously, which had the light show around the it appears from the bottom information, which is showing the units of candelas that are represented by the various colors, that the measurement stops at 250, which is not from zero. In other words, because the area stops in light against the black doesn't mean that the illumination stops. It just means that it stops at the level of 250 candelas. So is it your understanding then that there may well be light projected beyond these borders, but that it would be of a lesser intensity?
Well, I believe that the intensity, if you look at the glare in the table, the candela levels, minimal to no glare at 500 or less candelas is equivalent to a 100-watt incandescent light bulb.
Right. But there is more beyond. I mean, we're saying once you get to a light bulb.
At a less than 500
yeah, I mean, when I look into
candela
a light
impact.
bulb, it doesn't help my eyes any.
Right.
If I look right into it. So I have two more questions, but one is then, is there any, and this is a broader question, I'm not really picking on this project per se, but we know that we also have a growing loss of overall darkness, that is a greater intensity of all existing ambient light because of all the illumination that we have in our urban and suburban areas. So is there any thought about what this does to the overall light condition in Rockville or in West
Adjacent
Rockville?
to Interstate 270, I can't imagine it being that significant.
Right, but for folks who want to go out in their backyard and see the stars, Rotzer Rock, the sky is too lit. Right.
Well, again, these lights are designed to focus down. They're illuminating a sports field, not up.
I'm not giving you a hard time, but there's a broader issue here, and this doesn't really address it. The other question is, then all of this would be artificial turf.
That's correct.
So how are we managing runoff? And, I mean, this isn't going to be absorbed into water isn't going to be absorbed into the ground there. Where is it going?
Well, there is a requirement. They still have to get permits from Department of Public Works for stormwater and for sediment control, as well as forestry. So those are issues that would be addressed through that permitting review.
But do we think that it's possible for runoff to be controlled within the general requirements of our trying not to have too much runoff?
I think that would be the purpose of the Public Works review, is try to minimize.
But the artificial turf is impervious, right?
Yes.
So you have no water absorption on which is kind of the idea when you're playing soccer, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any idea of whether this, when it's completed, will generate revenue for the county or for the Board of Education?
That would be a question for the county and for NCPS.
Thank you.
Mr. Ray, one last question. I know when we have community meetings for our materials, the staff gets a written report back of what went on and all that. Does the county do that for you guys?
In terms of the
If you've
public
had,
meetings?
if they have outreach in a community group, do they let you know what went on?
They have let us know what went on just informally and through,
Oh.
you know, not